Hey everybody, it's Trisha here. And today we're talking about how timeshares are or can be a really big ripoff. And I say can because if you know how to utilize them and if you purchased a property that is in a really amazing location and you're guaranteed that property, however so often, you're able to get it, whether it's once every 2 years or every year, then sometimes it's worth it. But for the majority of people, timeshares are the absolute biggest ripoff that anyone could imagine. So, what can make some of these timeshares what I call, overpriced and not a great investment is that they have forever fees. So nothing you ever pay off and nothing you ever settle. So even though you spent, say, approximately $20,000 to buy your timeshare, which enables you to have 1 week a year in the location of your choice, given that you can actually find an open date during the time that you want to go. Um, so that's what your $20,000 that you paid for enables you to have. What they don't tell you is that your maintenance fees, which start out usually kind of like a homeowner's, they start out low and every year they go up. And so what started as $1,000 10 years later is now $1,800. And if you're in a prime location, if you're in a Kauai where it's gorgeous year round, and to actually pay for a hotel in that area is $1,000 a night, and you're only paying 1,800 now for the week, that's a bargain. So depending on where you actually can use your timeshare really determines whether or not it's worth it. So for majority of people that didn't buy in some exotic location that was quite expensive to stay at, they're spending $1,800 a year to hopefully book a room in Florida that probably would only cost them $150 a night if they had, done it on their own. So for a majority of people, it doesn't really make sense. And unfortunately, because that maintenance cost continues to go higher, it ends up being a real, kind of burden on your expenses as you get older. And that's who they attract. They attract older people that, have the idea of wanting to go to all those places, but as you get older, you slow down and you don't have the ability to go to the exotic locations that require a lot of stamina. So I don't like them because of the maintenance fee continuing to grow. And they also have usually within their contracts language that says something like, if they need to repair a roof or, extraordinary circumstances that they can add that additional fee onto you. So, not a real good proposition to me in terms of, wanting to have fixed costs in your later years. As well as most of them, they tag on some kind of a club fee. And that can start out at $100 and end up at $400, $500. That too increases as well, and you don't really have any control over any of that. So those are aspects of a timeshare that most timeshare agents don't tell you about. And we had one friend that actually kind of got pushed into signing up for the upgrade because every time you go on vacation, they want you to attend a sales meeting so that they can try and you know dig you deeper into the hole, so that they let you know all the things that you'd be missing out on if you didn't step up to the next level, the next upgrade. And so because of that, you usually end up feeling guilty about not doing it and feeling pressured. And unless you have, nerves of steel and are extremely disciplined, you end up walking away, doing something you may not have wanted to do. So this friend of ours, what they did was they were pressured into upgrading to the next level because their maintenance fees continued to grow, and the maintenance fees got so high that were kind of regretting, um, not the timeshare, but just the fact that it's continuing to grow, and it was burdening them. And so when they talked to the salesperson said, "Oh, well, we can lower you down to the lower payment. So instead of 18, we can, lock in that 1200 if you upgrade to this new level." And the upgrade was an additional $20,000. And so, unfortunately, our friend, they ended up going that route. And so they locked into an additional $20,000 upgraded property, but it did lower down the annual maintenance fees back down to the 1200. But within the language of the contract, once again, that 1200 is just for that year. It's not locked in forever. And I don't know anybody personally who is a timeshare salesperson, but you can't feel really good about that job when you're dealing with older people and you're convincing them to do something that's against their best interests, all to make a sale. How do you feel good about yourself? Yes, you win, but you burden somebody else. And unfortunately, a lot of older people don't have somebody with them during those occasions, and they end up committing to things that really they shouldn't be. An 80-year-old should not be acquiring 40,000 more dollars of debt, 20,000 more dollars of debt, even if they can. So, unless, they're obviously very wealthy and they could pay it in cash. But this friend of ours wasn't able to pay in cash. And so they conveniently put it on credit cards for them. And wow, 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 wow. The first year, sure, interest free. But then a year later, the promotional rate goes off and it goes up to almost 30%. How horrible is that? Yeah. So my feelings about timeshares is quite negative because I just don't see the value in locking yourself into maintenance fees after you've already spent 20, $40,000 for the actual property. And what makes it even worse is that, so this is forever money, right? You're never paying off this bill, and they want you to leave it to your beneficiary. Well, no, thank you. I don't want to be the beneficiary of a lifetime bill. If I chose to do it, that would be great. But I think timeshares, unfortunately, need to die with the person who wanted that experience, because it's not fair to burden anybody else with that responsibility. So I'm not really a fond advocate for timeshares. I'm actually the opposite. So just wanted to share that information with my community to let you know that if you are somebody who is getting pressured into a timeshare, don't do it. They're hard to get out of, and you are paying that fee forever. And if you decide that that's okay and that's something that you want and you can afford it and you utilize it, then I think that's the best you can do, is really utilize it. Have fun with it, enjoy it, get all the pleasure you can out of it, and then don't leave it to anybody. Or at least if you plan on leaving it to somebody, you need to get their clearance because they need to know what they're walking into. It's essentially a payment. And if they're not somebody who travels often, it's really not worth it. So anyway, I just wanted to share that experience with you. It was something that, I just recently ran into with a friend, and I'm quite unhappy about the whole situation. But you know, everybody's got to make their own choices, and hopefully, that doesn't impact anybody that you know. So, all right, guys. Well, hope you're all doing well, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye bye.